Hello lovely people, I'm K3N and welcome to Wonky Wednesday. Now this series is, each week I'm making a video showing how to make a little block. Many of them are based on log cabins, some will be based on other traditional quilting blocks, but this will all be done by hand with scraps of cloth and very much in the Slowstitch style. So this week's episode I'm going to show you how to make a log cabin heart, so I hope you enjoy it. So what you'll need is a foundation square. I've got a 5-inch square, which is the exact size of my journal, so I'll probably have to trim it down a bit, but obviously you can have any size square you want. And I've got some strips of, I'm going, you know, classic reds, reddy, pinky colours that are around 1 inch wide, just from my scraps. And I've got a smaller pile of some background colour. I'm going for cream. Piecing thread, needle, snippy fiskers, and that's about it. So let's get started. So the beginning is familiar to you all, if you've all been here a while. We're going to fold our foundation square onto the diagonals to find the middle. Like so. And then we are going to, now you can either do the laying on and overlapping fluffy raw edge, or you can piece. I haven't decided what I'm going to do. You're all shouting, I can't please all of you. I'm going to do fluffy edges. So I'm going to start with a square in the middle, a red square. I'm just going to cut this by eye, roughly square. That's now too small for this, it can go in the scraps. And line it up with its points on the diagonal lines. And get my thread. I'm still using my vintage darning thread till it's gone. I'm just going to stitch around the edge of that little square. So when I've got this square on, I'm going to do a round, just normal again, of logs. The only difference is I'm only doing red logs. I'm not going to do darks and lights. So I need a red log for here. I've got all kinds of stuff here. This is polyester. There were little samples out of something. This is a very high thread count cotton, but it's such a nice colour. I'm going to just trim it first. It hasn't got a particularly nice edge to it because it's such a high thread count. So I'm overlapping by 1/4 inch-ish. And then I'm going to stitch myself up and along. Now the reason I stitch these logs when I overlay them like this, raw edge, on the outside edge, is so that the next round of logs covers this stitching line. And then if I want to do top, you know, decorative stitching afterwards, then I'll do that on the areas that are visible. Do you see what I mean? So I'm just overlapping that by the same amount, about 1/4 inch. Stitching myself up the side. Oops, slippy slidey. See, I could put a pin in it, but I know from experience that this leaves a hole that's quite difficult to get rid of. And I could, of course, put a tiny weeny dab of glue stick, only my glue stick's over there in a drawer. Thank you, Helen, for my glue stick. Lovely Helen gave me the glue stick. So I'm just going to persevere, it's only tiny. Okie dokie. So that's 2 logs. So now the 3rd log. What shall we have? And it's when I'm working with scraps like this, I just go by what's the right size, you know, just to use up the smallest ones first. I'm going to trim that end off because there's nicer fluff there. So I need to trim off about 1/4 inch. Oh, with my lovely snippies. They're so lovely and sharp. Thank you, Sue. This is the 4th and final of the first round. There we go. Squeaky chair, sorry about that. Right, so that's round 1. Perfectly normal so far. I'm not going to bother trimming that little bit. It's not big enough to be a useful scrap. Well, you know, probably is, but So the next round starts off completely normal and still only in red. So choose a bit, choose a bit. So I need to put it right down here because I only want 1/2 inch showing. Actually, for this method you could have had 3/4 inch logs because you're only covering up one side, aren't you? You're only making one seam, if you see what I mean. See what I mean? If you're piecing, you're taking 1/4 inch off each side of the log. If you're laying them on raw edge, you only need to cover up 1/4 inch one side. But anyway, I've done it now. I didn't know which I was doing when I was cutting my strips. This shiny stuff is really, it's lovely colours, but that's about the only thing I like about it. It's not very nice to stitch, but they're only tiny little, there was a tiny little swatch set in a bag of upholstery swatch books that my neighbour gave me. There we go. So that's the first log of round 2. The second log of round 2 is also normal, just plain red, or whatever colour you're using. The trouble with this sari silk is it's very thin. I should have cut wider strips so that I could have folded them in half. Can I double them up that way? I'll do that. I'll get it the right length and then I'll trim off some of that. It's got a lot of fringy fringe hanging. Let's give it a little haircut into the waist, excuse me. There we go. I have made in the past wall hangings, and I made a cushion at one point as well, using 16 log cabin blocks, 4x4, to make a heart. I think it was 16. So that's a bit more of an involved project. I think I mentioned it last time. But I will do that at one point. I will show you how I did that. But it takes, you know, I haven't got one left because they've all sold over the years or been given away. I've made them in all different colours and different ways. I did a stained glass one, I seem to remember, in really bright colours and with black sashing in between, as if it was a stained glass one. Anyway, sorry. So I need to make one, you know, I need to make one at least to show you how to make it. So once I've got the time, you know, and when we've got time in our schedule of videos as well, I shall do that. Some of this of my old chair, is that long enough? I think just cut that pointy end off. So I've done, where am I? Concentrate, Catherine. 1, 2, I'm on my second round. So yeah, on my second round, my first 3 are normal. So this is the third one of the second round. I hope you're with me so far. And then the 4th log of the second round is slightly different. Which I will explain. Right, because now we need to start making the heart shape. And I'm actually going to cut that thread off because it's very short and get a new bit. And not put my needle in my mouth. I'm so naughty. So the 4th log of the second round, I hope I hope I'm being clear. You need to put, you need your red part. I'll show you. I'll trim that first so that that's squared off. Right, so we need to put a log here, but we want this part to be red, and then the final, in essence, a square, to be the background colour. So we start with our red bit. So this, no, that's the same as that. Put it away. Have some of this. So you want your red log, the red section of your log wants to come to here, but I'm going to go slightly further because I need to overlap it. So I'll cut that to size and pin it in place. I could have done with an iron, but you know me and ironing. The thing is as well, if it's just the one or two little scraps, now here's me making excuses. My iron is in my son's bedroom because I don't like it standing up in the studio all the time, the ironing board and the iron, and so that means I have to go in there, turn it on just for the sake of one little tiny 2-inch square. It doesn't seem worth the effort. If it was set up in here all the time, then maybe I'd be more inclined. And then you need a cream bit, or whatever your background colour is, do you see? And that needs to line up with the edge of this. I'll do it with the scissors, so it's... Do you see what I mean? So this lines up with this log. So I'm going to trim that off. You could, of course, sew this on and then do this. But I just wanted to give you an overview, and I think while I'm here I might as well just do it all in one go. Like that. And you can see already that then our block turned on point, on its pointy diagonal. This, you see there's already the beginning of a heart forming. We're going to make it look even more hearty. And I'm also going to tell you how to make it if you want it so that they sit the right way up. But that'll come at the end. So now I'm just going to stitch those two pieces on along the edge, exactly the same as if it was one strip of cloth. So that's there. So your next round, you're going to now start your, so we've done 1, 2 rounds. So now we're going to start our third round. Get those pins out. So the first log of the third round will again have a cream square, but at this end. So all the cream's happening up here. So same thing again. It needs to be right down here because still we're only leaving that 1/2 inch showing. That's all right. There we go. Got carried away there. Put my pin back in. Too many things to hold at once. Right. And I'm not worrying about all this flippy floppy, you know, as long as it's all held down along that edge, I will do some fancy stitching on it. So the fancy stitching will take care of all that at the same time. So just stitch along that edge. And then the next 2 rounds will just be red again, in my case. Your heart colour. So that's just normal again, so lay it on, leave 1/2 inch showing. Stitch it down. And then again another complete log, the full length there. So this shiny one. Okay. So now for the final round, the final log of round 3. Again, we need to put some cream here, and we need it to be this long. Do you see? Do you see? Do you see? So I'm going to put a bit of this down. It's upholstery stuff. And I'm going to overlap that slightly here, so I can put my cream piece, and the overlaps will go the same way. Like I say, I don't think that really matters. It's... Whoops. The cream piece here needs to be the same width as that entire cream piece that's already there. So I only needed to overlap it that much. Cut a bit more off, apologies. And then I need a cream piece for there. So that will go like that. So those two edges, do you see, those two edges are in line, and this piece of cream lines up with this piece of cream in the previous round. I'll pin it in place. I'm not going to bother trimming that teeny tiny bit. So I'm just going to stitch all the way along there. Okay, so I've stitched that all the way around. So now we've done we've done 3 complete rounds. So now I turn it, so this is the 4th round. Now the 4th round is where I want to put in some little angles to make, you know, my heart more curvy. So, so on the first log of the 4th round, you need to put this strip on with a slight overlap there of the cream of about 1/4 inch, the background colour. You know when I say cream that I mean my background colour. Might be different for you. Let's put a pin in that and trim it off this end. And then the cream piece, you need a background colour / cream piece to fill in here. That wants to have a little angle on it. So I'm just going to get a piece that's plenty long enough. So say that piece. You know, it's plenty long, it sort of overlaps both sides. And then I'm just going to cut by eye a 45-ish degree angle going this way. So starting, if you imagine a square, starting bottom right going up top left. Like that. And then I'm going to lay that over my red. I'm going to get rid of that fray. Like so. Do you see? So that point there. So the diagonal starts from down there, level with the previous cream. Do you see what I mean? I get my hands out of the way. Do you see? So the angle's coming down here and it's level with the strip of cream in the previous round. Many apologies, I had a technical hitch. I just went to edit and there was a whole section of video missing, so I've had to take it all apart to show you this stage. I've trimmed it already. I did trim it. Anyway, so where we were in the video, I'd just sewn this side on, so we're going to turn it, and then for this side we need a strip of red, or your heart colour, the full length, and then you need another piece of cream where you've cut a 45-degree angle, and that goes on so that the lower point of that angle is your 1/2 inch in from the edge of the previous log that we just sewed on. See what I mean? So from here to here is 1/2 inch. So I'll pin that and sew that on. So I'll pin that and I'll sew that on, and then once I've sewn that on, just in exactly the same way, you turn it, and then the next side is a plain red again, or your heart colour. So lay it on, leave your 1/4 inch, sew along there, and then hopefully the next section of video after I insert this shows you this and the rest. Okay, so I've done that, just my plain bit of red. So now this last side of this round, you need a piece of red. Let's use this bit again. And I'll start with it the same length, but I can do some trimming. And then at this end, you need another piece with the 45-degree angle coming this way. And then again, you want to put it so that the start of that angle is about 1/2 inch along into this log. Do you see what I mean? So this, from here to here, is 1/2 inch. I'll pin that in place and trim it afterwards. And then at the other end, you need another piece with a 45-degree angle in it, going the opposite direction. And then that goes on where the start of the angle is, lined up with the cream part of the previous strip. Do you see what I mean? I hope you see what I mean. Do you see? So this is making this continuation of that curve there. And I'm going to pin that, and I'm going to pin it along that angle, like that. And then I can trim away that red behind. I'm going to trim away, leaving about 1/2 inch underneath, just as an overlap. And there we go. And put a pin in that. And I'm going to trim this end. Whoopsie. And I'm going to trim this end, being careful not to cut my piecing thread. And also, if you wanted to, if your cloth was thicker or whatever, you could cut off a little bit of that red underneath, but I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to bother. So now I'm just going to stitch that all down as if it was just one strip. And I hope you can see already, or finally, already, finally you can see the beginnings of the heart shape, I hope. I might make another video, maybe next week I'll see, of it pieced. Because I think with all the angles and everything, it's not that straightforward to translate it from this way to the pieced way. I'll put that out there and, you know, see what you think. If you all go, oh no, Catherine, we've had enough of hearts, don't bother, then I won't. Otherwise, next week I'll make this again, but pieced. Whoops. There we go. So I'll get all those pins out now. So now my final round is just, you see how wonky I am, doesn't matter, super wonky, it's Wonky Wednesday. My final round I'm just going to do all in my background colour just to frame it all off. So let's get a bit, so I'm just simply going to lay my pieces on, you know, in the normal way, stitch, so I'm going to go round all 4 sides like that, and then I'll come back. Okay, so I've done my final round and I've trimmed it back to its 5 inches, and obviously it'll be on an angle if you've got it square like that, and you see the real heart when you turn it on point. What you can do if you want to make hearts, you know, that are the right way up, is you can add triangles to your corners. So what I would do there is I would cut myself a square that was the size of this square, and then cut it in half across the diagonal to make 2 half square triangles. You need 2 so that you get 4, and then you just sew those triangles to the corners. Do you see what I mean? And that gives you you know, the heart the right way up, set in a square. I hope that's clear. But anyway, I don't mind it on the wonk because it's Wonky Wednesday. I do think it would benefit from some stitching, particularly up here where all these little pieces are meeting. So I think I might go and do that. I might go and do some seed stitching or something up around here, and maybe some stitching into the heart itself, and then I'll come back and show you. Okay, so I've done my slow stitching and I went a little bit to town with it. So what I've done is I've done several rows of running stitch just around the edge. If I hold it up and make sure it's in focus, I hope you can see. And I did some overcast stitches all around the cream area here, just to hold them down, and some teeny tiny ones across these 2 little angles. And then in that cream area I did seed stitching. If you don't know what seed stitching is, it's just single straight stitches going in all different directions. I don't want it to go blurry if I bring it too close. And I've made sure that some of them at least overlap the joins in the cloth, just to flatten that whole area down. And then the final thing I did was with some 2 strands of red embroidery floss. First of all I stitched a little cross in the middle, and then I just did a row of running stitches up the centre of each log, spiralling out from the middle. And I'm really happy with it. I think it's lovely. I think you could use it on a bag or a cushion. You could make several and join them together. I think it's really pretty, versatile little block. So I am going to put it in my journal. I've got this log cabin stitch journal, if you're new here, that I've been putting my pieces in each week. So here are some of the previous ones that you can find in the Wonky Wednesday playlist if you're interested. That was last week's. So here's my page for this week. There's also a tutorial how to make this journal. I'm saying all this, all of you who have been here for a while know already, but I'm saying this because there's been quite a few new people lately, so it's just for those people. Welcome, welcome if you're new. So I've left my thread attached. I'm just going to stitch it along the edge of the page there. I love the look of it against all this rust and tea-dyed yumminess as well. And then this little journal, once it's full of all these, will be a kind of visual record of all the different kinds of log cabin related and other blocks that we've come up with, or I've come up with. And it'll be a thing of beauty in its own right. So all I'm going to do is I'm just stitching along there, just to attach it to the page. I really got carried away with the stitching. It was just so lovely to stitch, and I think the more stitching I did on it, the more it emphasised the heart shape. I think the heart shape's pretty pronounced just with those. There was literally 4 pieces that we had to cut on an angle, and the rest were just straight lines, just to make a heart shape. Right, that's me to the end. I think I might leave that thread because I think I'll put a dangle on it. I haven't got a dangle prepared, but if you tune in next week, I'll show you what I've put there. Maybe I can find a little heart, that would be cool. So there we go. So that's my scrappy log cabin heart. So thank you so much for watching, as always, and I really appreciate your support, and please subscribe and like and all that kind of thing. And I look forward to you joining me next time for more Cloth Tales. Bye bye!